Good morning, Heather.
Morning.
So I'm super excited to have you. So it's a whole 1 year since the Oasis show started. We started the end of March last year, and you kicked us off in our series all by yourself. You were propped up in your room doing this. We were like 2 weeks into the pandemic. Everyone was like held up in their homes, and you kicked us off to help give some tidbits of information to small business owners about what they can do, at the start of the pandemic when everything was closing down. So I wanted to come full circle a whole year later and talk to you and have you on the show because while you're out helping everyone else in their businesses, I wanted to talk to you about your journey as an entrepreneur.
Oh my, so until you reminded me that I did have I actually sent you a picture of the setup behind. I'm back in my office and I have been since it was about 3 days after I did that Oasis presentation, the first Oasis Live. And I remember then I posted on my personal Facebook, I just had 150 people in my bedroom. How's your day going?
Yeah.
Because it was something I'd never thought I would ever do is do a video was hard, used to be hard for me, but doing a video that's super vulnerable, that's live in my bedroom
Mhm.
because our office at the time was closed for 2 weeks. Our office building was closed. So right after that, I got to go back to the office and I was the only business that did return to, I never stopped working.
Mhm.
But I got to return to the office. So from March to May, I'm in a big office, a big hub of about 30 or so businesses are here, and I was the only one. So it was my hallway, it was my bathroom, it was my parking space, it was silent, it was amazing. I kept thinking I could walk to the bathroom naked and nobody's gonna know. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But this doing the online everything we're doing is online now, so I've hit Zoom fatigue a few times since then, because then it wasn't everybody was online all the time, and you forget what it was like in the before times.
You do. You do. And I have to say that because you and I are kind of the same. Like we would have been maybe 4, 5, 6 in-person meetings a day. And then you switch that and you leave that day going, man, I had a really great day. It was like super great conversations. And now we go 4, 5, 6 Zoom meetings and you're like, don't talk to me. I'm done. Right?
Now I still have my meetings on Thursdays and Fridays. I am still very specific about my time. I will say I know for a fact that the pandemic was harder on extroverts than on introverts. And I'm an introvert. So for at least the first 6 months, I was like, you know what? Zoom meetings are great. There's very little small talk.
Mhm.
You open your computer, people exist. You close your computer, they're gone.
Mhm.
Like, this is nice. I have friends in my pockets. I have friends in my computer and I can turn them off. But I don't think there's anybody that hasn't kind of hit that. I really wish I could connect with people again, especially in groups that I'm involved in where everybody's doing that Zoom. Oh, you talk. Oh, you're on mute. Oh, you're,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't
that camaraderie and having
vibe.
that community
Yes.
feel.
And the
So
collaborative work. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And that's certainly something that's been missed. It's like, what's going to happen when we go to the next networking event? Like, are we going to like all hug or are we all just going to stand around and wave at each other like we do on Zoom, right? But
Stay 6 feet away from me. That's my new bubble.
that's
Yeah.
right, that's right. So your business, Hala Connected, you do, a whole lot of services for businesses, but mainly you help other businesses show up, right?
Yeah.
Basically, you help other businesses show up. And so you kicked into that mode, and a lot of small business owners reached out to you for help, and you help them, help them with their brand, and you help them get, online, and you help them have more presence. But who helped you? Because as you're helping everyone else, and people would say, wow, your business is thriving, you're helping all these businesses, but there was still a you, right? A Heather behind the business. So as you're helping all the other businesses, who helped you?
I'm incredibly lucky with my team. Um, my fiance and I are, he works within the company, which I know most people are like, oh my gosh, no, we just stay in our own lanes. And we don't have to, we're both really good at our jobs, so we're very separate in that way. But I have, like, my team really stepped up, just to a degree that was unbelievable. So I never ever felt crazy and alone. I'm also really lucky. The way we work, we get so deep into the businesses we work with that they become our friends and they become our support and they become those people. I'm also a member of Business Roundtable, where there were absolutely meetings. We did Zoom meetings, we did in-person meetings, we did hybrid meetings, we did meetings that were socially distanced. We did everything we could to be together. We meet once a month, sorry. And sometimes it was just, I felt like I was going to them and just whining. And that was good because everybody kind of had that, and we all have very different jobs and we all have very different experiences during the pandemic. So they supported me. The other group I'm in is BPW, so Business and Professional Women. And we never stopped. I'm on the board, and we did Facebook Lives, and we are connecting with this person and connecting with that person. There, she's actually, that little bleep was BPW talking to me. So we were able to connect with each other, even if it was online.
Mhm.
I have, like, these other groups, and I've got incredible friends. Like, the support system I have is amazing. So when I got to say, it's too much, I can't do this anymore, I'm closing my company, which for a little while, I will say, in April was like every other week. I'm like, I can't do this. There's too much work to do and everybody needs everything. And oh my goodness, like, and then we grew, we hired, we expanded. Like, it was good. But yeah, there were crash and burn times. Absolutely. Just because you felt like you couldn't do enough for enough people, and everybody that you're talking to is hitting you with all their, I mean, they're hitting you with their needs,
Mhm.
but they're hitting you with the negative side.
Yeah.
So I was able to take that and use the groups that I'm in that have always just been places I've just gone because I liked them.
Mhm.
They became places I could go to and say, I'm struggling. I'm not, this is not okay. I'm not okay. And then within our household, we were all working toward the same goal. So between Robbie and I, my fiance and I, and even my kids jumped in and did stuff, like everything, everybody stepped up the way they had to. And that, I know some people, 2020 was just the worst year they've ever had in their lives.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't.
Mhm.
And the thing that made that difference were those connections that I had before,
Yeah.
that I've never really drawn on, because everything's always just been moving forward, always moving forward. So when everybody had to stop and take a break, I stopped, looked around and went, I'm incredibly lucky. Like, I can't believe how lucky I am, how fortunate I am, that when I'm having a bad day and I need to tell people, or if I'm having a good day and I want to share that with people,
Mhm.
I had the people I could go to in no matter what I was trying to share. Because sometimes during the pandemic, it's been harder to share good news than bad news, because misery
Absolutely.
loves
Yeah.
company, and nobody
Absolutely.
loves when you're kicking ass and everybody else is falling apart.
Right. And I think a lot of people see, service-based industries like yours as, oh, they're stepping in, and some would even say that some service-based industries were taking advantage of other people and other people's problems, and they were jacking prices up because
Yeah.
they had it, and so there's a big lesson here. I mean, we can't come out of 2020 and not learn a lesson, or we can't come out of the last year and not learn a lesson. But what do you think the lesson is for the small business owners that came, like, you've learned lessons, but what about the small business owners that came knocking on the door going, oh my God, I have a challenge, like, help.
Yeah.
What do you think the lesson is for those people as they sit a whole year later on this side?
I'm really hoping that whatever they did wasn't a stopgap measure.
Okay.
The people that I found we weren't able to help the way we wanted to help was because the pandemic was insanity. Like, literally, we talk about before times. Like, I see pictures of people in groups without masks, and I'm like, oh my God, like, we used to do that. We used to breathe other people's air.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people who were reaching out, who really struggled, were reaching out saying, I want to do the same thing I'm doing now. I just want it to keep working. and it doesn't work anymore. There was a chance, there was an opportunity for really large scale change and improvement. So if everything you did was to get you through the next 2 weeks, you may not have had that time, and you still have time right now to really sit down and go, what is going to get me through the next 10 years? Planning for pandemic and not for pandemic. I mean, we'll never have a time in our generation that we haven't lived through a pandemic now, and we never had before. The lessons going forward are, what can you do to be stable? What can you do to be flexible? The people who've made the most out of it, the people who've really, really risen. Like, I have clients that it was their best financial year, retail clients that it was their best financial year. They grew, they were open, they pivoted, and they wanted to do whatever worked, and whether it was different or not, it was okay. The ones that I think might struggle in the future are the ones who said, I just want a stopgap fix. I just want a little short-term fix. And then as soon as it goes back to normal, we'll be fine. Mm-hmm. We can never know what normal is going to be ever again.
Right.
Because normal isn't what it was. We will never go back to a period where we don't own masks. Mm-hmm. I've never bought one in my life. I'm not a surgeon. Yeah. Like, I had to wear one when I was a little kid going into the hospital to visit my sister because there was whooping cough. And I was like, I can't believe doctors wear this. And now we all do.
Yeah, right.
We'll never have a time where we didn't have to do that. So we can never just look 2 weeks ahead anymore, ever. Everything has to be made with 2 plans. Every event we plan, everything we look at has to be pandemic or no pandemic.
Yes.
Can we meet? Can we not meet? Mm-hmm. And what can we do to be of greater service to the world? I think that's something that a lot of people took out of at least the first 6 to 8 months of the pandemic. We were all in it for each other. Mm-hmm. You're right. There were some bad actors who were in it for themselves. I work in business development and digital marketing. So there were bad actors in my own field. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, there were. I think they became more noticeable. It was easier to identify them. Mm-hmm. Because their solutions were expensive and didn't work and short term. Mm-hmm. But the people who do really good work, the service providers who are out there, the coaches and the therapists, the people who were doing really, really good work, we got to see more of them. Right. And that's been incredibly helpful. So the lessons I really hope everybody learns is be flexible and be adaptive. Mm-hmm. And focus so much more on the value you offer than on getting the next sale. Because getting the next sale is not going to get you through a pandemic where you could be shut down at any point. You have to have that build up, and you have to have a value that you're selling. And that's everybody all the time. Or you have to maintain, we built so many Facebook pages that as soon as we went into yellow, people stopped paying attention. Like they didn't continue with them because they're like, I don't need to anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And then we went into red.
Yeah.
And then they went into red and they were like, oh shoot, I need you again.
Right.
That has to be just a part of your system now. That has to be part of what you do, and you have to do things differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when we talk about unlikely entrepreneurs, right? And that's, I talk about the book that I read about the unlikely entrepreneur, and as I'm having conversations with small business owners and entrepreneurs like yourself, I would put you in that category of the unlikely entrepreneur, because this came about as you've seen an opportunity. Somebody asked you a question, somebody asked you for help, and all of a sudden you had a business. And, so when we look at one of those life lessons of there being an opportunity, right, of having an opportunity and a choice, taking the action to go after and make the choice to do it. So much opportunity lied in the pandemic, right, of being able to, do like curbside pickup or payment over the phone. And it was interesting because this week I actually called somewhere and I wanted to pay over the phone to a small business. And she went, we don't do that anymore. And I said, well, I thought you were doing it. She went, yeah, well, we stopped though, because, we're open now. And I went, but I really wanted to pay over the phone. Like I really, really, really like that service. Right. So it's having that, seeing it more as a grander opportunity than just, a short-term opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely, I might not even call myself an accidental entrepreneur. I might call myself an involuntary entrepreneur.
Okay.
it happened to me.
Yeah.
I'm beyond grateful it did back in 2012, because now 8 years, 9 years almost later, I'm living a life that I couldn't have imagined if I had a boss. Like it's just,
Right.
and my last boss was a toxic boss, which kind of created this thing where I had two paths, and I chose the crazy one.
Right.
And it really worked out. And the number of people I know who do that they are the flexible, adaptable people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Flexibility, adaptability, and the people who are here to serve. The businesses that are here to serve are still accepting payment over the phone.
Right. Absolutely.
They will always. There are restaurants that will always have curbside pickup now.
Mm-hmm. And I've talked to restaurant owners who said, they would have been fine had their restaurant, had their dining room not open up, because their increase in curbside pickup and takeout and delivery increased so much that they were like, we can do this kind of even if our dining room doesn't open,
Yep,
right? So,
absolutely.
so we talked about, the lessons that you've learned in your business, and that you hope other small businesses learn. But let's talk about some of the life lessons that have brought you to, in your journey of almost 9 years. What do you think is the hardest lesson that you've had to learn as an entrepreneur?
That you can't do it all by yourself, and you're not necessarily the smartest person in the room. That's hard. You have I named my company after myself. It's Hala, H-A-L-A, and it's Heather, Aiden, Lily, Ainsley. It's me and my kids. I was a single mom single mom of 3 kids when I launched a company, and it was my baby. And then realizing, oh my goodness, to get bigger, you need other voices in the room, even if those voices tell you you are incorrect.
Mhm.
And branching out, we are so siloed as business owners. We don't like to share our failures. So having a group like BPW or BRT where I get to share my failures, and it's not seen as me failing, it's seen as they'll reframe it as an opportunity or as a challenge or whatever that is. So reaching out and having other people other than yourself. Like I said, I'm an introvert, and I'm very private. So telling people when I'm struggling, not my favorite thing. It's actually probably my least favorite thing, but it's the lesson I learned. And I'm so glad I learned it pre-pandemic, because I can't imagine learning it while going through real traumatic, global traumatic experiences with everybody you talk to is affected by this.
Right.
I had people I had already developed that with. So life lesson number 1 is don't try to, I'm still the empress of my company, but I'm not the only one in my company.
Right.
I'm not even the sole decision maker in my company anymore, which a lot of business owners don't want to give up. I put this in, it's my thing,
Mhm.
and I'm going to live or die on my own hills. I don't do that anymore.
Right.
Everybody who is impacted by my company gets a say in my company, including my clients. They have got a lot of good ideas for me. And I implemented like every single one of them during the pandemic because they told me what they needed. And I was like, okay, we do that now.
Right.
Let's figure out how to do that.
So if that was your hardest lesson, what do you think was the easiest when you think back to your journey and, putting that stamp as Hala Connected and choosing your name and registering your company and building your model? What do you think was the easiest decision you made in your entrepreneur journey?
I took my background. I'm a counselor. I'm a licensed counselor first. So I was a psychologist. Well, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm a counselor. So I worked in mental health and trauma specifically. And then I became an elementary teacher, and then I became a marketer.
Mhm.
But I'm a really big nerd. The biggest thing that I learned was you can take the coolest thing I learned, my favorite part of it is you can take any set of skills and make up a job around it. And if you're really passionate, really good at those skills, and really, really willing to continually learn, because everything doesn't change to the level that it changes in my world, I think, for everybody, because I work in digital marketing. Literally everything changes like every 6 months.
Right.
So constant education is a real thing. But you can take any one of your passions and figure out a way that it can provide service to the world that you can then get paid for. The second thing, the really fun thing I had to learn was that money is just energy. I have no problem asking for money now because I'm giving energy and it's in exchange for energy.
Hmm.
I also have no problem doing things without charging for them, meant like knowing that I'm doing that. I used to do it by accident all the time because I was really grateful people would ever pay me. And I was like, oh my goodness, you paid me $100. I'm going to do 78 hours of work for that. Like that wasn't healthy. And that was my original way I thought of money.
Mhm.
And now I look at everything. As long as we have an exchange of energy, I'm good. So if I do free work for you and you give me a video testimonial, I know how hard video testimonials are. That's a great exchange of energy.
Right.
I will barter and exchange anything. But if you are selling yourself short by not wanting to charge for what you do, you are shortchanging not only your client, but yourself. Because now at the end of the day, you have financial stress that you don't need to have.
Mhm.
And the people who are on the receiving end aren't getting your best self because a good chunk of yourself, good chunk of your hormones and your energy are going towards financial stress.
Right.
So charge fairly, always deliver more than is expected, but understanding eventually that money is energy, and that exchange of value, that exchange of energy for energy and need for need can be as flexible as your offerings.
That's
So, I mean,
amazing.
I always believe in the follow your passion thing.
Mhm.
But if you looked at my 3 career paths, you wouldn't think that I could have turned it into a company, and I do.
Right.
Because you've been on my couch in my office, and
Mhm.
my office couch is where the counseling happens.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
you had me come in and do professional development with Oasis, and that's where the teaching happens.
Mhm.
And then we've talked about how to strategize and structure wages, and that's where the marketing happens. And I get to do all 3 of them under the same umbrella. So you can do that with just about any set of skills.
Yeah.
Figure
Absolutely.
out a way to be
Absolutely.
of service to the world instead of trying to say, I'm going to launch a company that does a thing. Say, I'm going to launch a company that changes the world in a certain way.
Yeah. Amazing. I can't think of any better way to note to stop on from that. If someone doesn't take something away from this conversation, I take something away every time I talk to you or we message back and forth. I appreciate you so much, and I can't wait to see you in person someday. I feel like you're a million miles away from me, even though you're only 90 minutes.
I know. I
Yeah.
know. I have
Yeah.
Zoom meetings with people in the same city. I'm like, it's going to be great to,
Yeah.
but I mean, at that point, I'm not going to have the Zoom appearance filters that I have going on right now. So I might look a little different when we see each other. Just pretend you don't notice.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Heather. I appreciate you, and you have a great day.
You too.
Okay.